welcome everyone. Welcome to Speak Better English podcast.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Today, we've been handed a source that's pretty unique. It's not a long document, filled with footnotes or dense research data.
Not at all.
Instead, it's like a focused mission statement, a really powerful psychological promise, and an immediate call to action, all distilled into just 3 parts.
Exactly. And for you listening, especially if you're navigating the challenges of learning English and you need knowledge you can use, like right away, This is for you.
Right. This deep dive is all about analyzing the strategy behind this material.
We're basically dissecting the intent and the structural brilliance of a guide that seems specifically designed to break down conversational barriers.
For non-native speakers specifically.
For non-native speakers. So our 3 components are the title, Never Freeze Again, 25 small talk phrases to start any conversation.
That's a big promise right there.
A huge promise.
Yeah.
Then there's the clear context, which is the topic, small talk and meeting new people. And finally, that motivating imperative, the overlay. Start talking. What's so fascinating here, and what we really need to spend the next 30 minutes or so on, is understanding how this specific combination of elements, it really represents a complete integrated system for confidence.
The fluency activation almost.
Yes, fluency activation. That's the perfect term for it.
And that's the mission today, customized for you. I mean, if you've ever been in a social setting and you desperately need to start a conversation in English and you've felt that heavy, crushing mental block.
The freeze.
This analysis is your shortcut. We're not even going to look at the phrases themselves. We're going to explore the strategic necessity of having them.
Right. Why 25?
Why 25? Why the focus on never freeze again?
Yeah.
This whole breakdown is designed to help you understand the psychology of just starting.
Yeah.
So you can move from, hesitation to action.
Let's do it.
So we have to start with that headline promise because it immediately goes for the greatest fear in language learning. Conversational paralysis. Never freeze again. When you feel that freeze, that momentary lockup, it's not that you've forgotten the word for chair or coffee.
No, right. The vocabulary is probably there somewhere.
It's a systemic failure to launch. What does that freeze actually feel like? And why is this promise so potent, analytically speaking?
Well, that freeze is driven by an overwhelming cognitive overload, and it's combined with performance anxiety.
Okay, what do you mean by cognitive overload?
It's the moment your brain is trying to execute multiple complex tasks all at the same time, under pressure, and it shuts down.
Like a computer with too many tabs open.
Exactly like that. Your brain is trying to spontaneously construct a new sentence, conjugate the verb correctly, pull up the right vocabulary, calculate the appropriate cultural register.
This is too formal. Too casual.
All of that, and at the same time, you're managing this deep fear of sounding incompetent or being misunderstood. That combination is a perfect recipe for paralysis.
So cognitive load, that's just the immense mental energy we're wasting trying to think up the perfect opening line.
Yes. And this promise, never freeze again, it's a promise to bypass that whole construction phase.
So you save that brain power for the response.
Precisely. It offers instant fluency activation through substitution. Instead of building that first sentence from scratch, which is a high effort, high risk thing to do,
right,
you're simply retrieving a rehearsed, guaranteed, and structurally safe phrase. This just dramatically reduces the cognitive load at the exact moment when your anxiety is at its absolute peak. It's about creating a sort of a linguistic safe harbor.
If we look at the psychological mechanics here, you can really see the genius in how simple it is. For you, the learner, just knowing that the very first really high stakes hurdle is already handled. It allows your entire nervous system to just relax.
It does.
You see it all the time. Non-native speakers, when you give them a secure opening, they perform so much better for the rest of the conversation just because that initial success releases all the pressure.
That initial success is absolutely key. The psychological payoff is immediate positive reinforcement.
Right.
I mean, think of the alternative. A student freezes, fumbles the first line, feels embarrassed, and then retreats. And that just confirms the negative feedback loop that speaking this new language is hard or stressful.
And you avoid it next time.
You avoid it. This system is designed to create a successful routine. A social situation triggers the prepared phrase, which leads to a successful start, which gives you confidence, and that weakens the anxiety trigger for the next interaction.
And the value here, especially for those of you learning English, is that having prepared phrases, it just eliminates one of the most common habits that undermines confidence.
Which is?
The reliance on filler words. Because the sentence is already structured, you don't need those pauses while you're frantically trying to figure out where the verb goes.
Good point.
You just launch the clean, pre-packaged phrase, and you sound immediately more articulate and fluent.
That's a critical point on fluency. Fluency isn't just about speed, it's about smoothness. It's about minimizing those unnecessary pauses. Filler words are often a symptom of the brain scrambling for structure.
A rehearsed phrase delivers that structure instantly.
Instantly. It ensures a cleaner, more professional or more casual, but always a clear delivery.
Okay, so if the cure is never freeze again, the next question has to be, what's the dose?
The dose, I like that.
Let's talk about the specific number, 25 phrases. That number feels deeply strategic. It's not 5, which would feel uselessly limited, right?
Right. What can you do with 5?
And it's definitely not 100 or 500, which would just plunge you right back into that overwhelming data overload that we know kills motivation.
This raises a really important question about structured learning.
Yeah?
Why is a specific contained quantity like 25 so much better? We can analyze this through the lens of what's called the paradox of choice. When you're faced with too many options, let's say 100 conversational openings, your brain spends significant energy just choosing which one to use. And that leads you right back to the freeze.
Right. Too much choice leads to paralysis, which is exactly what the title promises to get rid of. 25, though, it suggests a carefully curated set, a high-impact minimum.
Exactly. 25 is enough to ensure you have versatility across common situations, but it's few enough that a learner can achieve genuine mastery. And mastery in this context means the phrases become automatic.
They move from conscious thought to muscle memory.
To subconscious, ready-to-use muscle memory. We really need to think about what these 25 phrases are likely made of for them to fulfill the promise of starting any conversation. They have to be strategically diverse. They have to be categorized.
Okay, so if I were designing this high-impact minimum, I would probably break them down into, maybe 5 key functional categories, just to make sure you're covering the whole social spectrum.
That's a fantastic approach.
Let's explore what those categories and maybe some examples might look like and analyze why they work.
Let's do it. We can speculate that the 25 are organized to cover the primary conversational angles, so the learner always has a safe launch, no matter the environment. What's your first category?
I'd start with the safest possible option. Category 1, environmental observations.
Okay, that makes sense.
These are the safest because they focus on a shared reality, something external to both of you. They're low risk because the other person doesn't have to talk about their personal life.
Right, so an example might be something like, that's a striking building. What are your thoughts on the design?
Perfect. The structure is simple. You make an observation and you add an open-ended follow-up. It uses common, accessible vocabulary like striking and design, and it immediately shifts the focus to a shared external thing.
Or how about, I appreciate the setup here. What was your favorite part of the event so far?
Yeah, that's so adaptable. It works at a conference, a party, even in a waiting room. It validates the environment, and it asks a soft, positive question that invites a low-stakes answer.
I see how this category works across a huge range of situations. A crowded, high-stakes networking event, or just a casual get-together. You're always safe talking about the environment you both share.
Precisely. Okay, category 2.
Let me guess. Something a little more personal.
A little. Soft compliments. And these have to be chosen so carefully to be non-intrusive and, culturally safe.
Right. Complimenting someone's appearance can be really tricky. So these phrases would probably focus on choices or accessories or achievement.
Exactly. So for example, I love that pin you're wearing. It really stands out. Is there a story behind it?
Oh, that's good. It complements a specific choice, not the person's fundamental look, which makes it way less awkward. And that question structure, is there a story behind it? That's a high reward open question. It could lead to a great 5-minute story.
Or in a professional setting, maybe something like, I overheard you mention you work in topic X. That's really fascinating. How did you get into that field?
That second one is so powerful because it uses the listener's existing context. It proves you've been paying attention.
Which is a huge social cue.
A massive one. It signals respect and interest, and it completely bypasses the need for some generic, awkward introduction. And notice how simple the grammar is in all of these.
Simple past, simple present. Nothing too complex that could trip you up when you're nervous.
Exactly. Okay, what's next?
Category 3, transactional or logistical check-ins.
For utility settings.
Right. Queues, coffee shops, finding a seat, they just help break the ice.
That's something like, excuse me, I haven't been here before. Do you happen to know if this line is for the checkout or for returns?
Perfect. High utility, very practical. It just requires a simple exchange of information. The person you ask has a clear path to giving you a helpful, immediate answer, and that fosters a momentary bond.
Or in an office. Is the coffee machine working? I was hoping to grab one, but I'm new to the office layout.
I like that one because it uses situational dependence. It explains your status, I'm new, without being overly apologetic, and it prompts a helpful response and establishes a casual basis for talking again later.
That's clever. It leverages the cultural tendency in many English-speaking places to be helpful when someone asks for simple directions or information.
You're initiating a conversation, but you're masking it as a practical request.
Okay, 2 more categories.
Category 4, simple opinion or observation. These move from the immediate environment to a shared experience, or a slightly deeper but still neutral topic.
Like current non-controversial events.
Right. Or broad cultural trends, for example. The traffic getting here was unbelievable today. Did you have any issues with the commute?
The weather and travel. The universal small talk staples of the English language. It establishes common ground through a minor shared struggle. It's immediately relatable.
Or what about, I've been trying to find a good book lately. Have you read anything great recently I should put on my list?
That's a great one. A safe, broad, hobby-based question. It signals you're open, and it could open up a shared topic like reading or films or podcasts.
So what's our last one?
Well, the beauty of having 25 is that it allows for this diversity. I think the last category has to be about connecting on a slightly more personal but still safe level. Let's call it shared purpose.
Okay, I like that.
These are for when you know you're in the same boat as someone. At a conference, a class, a workshop.
So like, what brought you to this event today? I'm hoping to learn more about X.
Perfect. It shares your own motivation, which is a small vulnerability, and invites them to share theirs. It immediately looks for professional or personal common ground.
So if you, the learner, master these 25 across these 5 categories, you never have to think, what is the most appropriate thing to say?
You just cycle through the categories in your head until you find one that fits the social context, and it eliminates that initial paralysis.
So to put a pin in that idea, the power of 25 is that it ensures versatility without causing analysis paralysis. It focuses on quality, high-impact phrases that are structurally simple, helping you move past filler words and straight into a clear, concise conversational launch.
Which brings us to the final part of the title.
Right. The promise of universal application to start any conversation. This is where it gets really interesting to me. How can 25 phrases possibly start any conversation? I mean, given the huge variability of human interaction, does this mean they work equally well with your professor, a potential client, or the person sitting next to you on the subway?
That universal promise is achievable because these phrases are designed to be conversational keys. They're not the whole conversation itself.
So they're not supposed to establish deep, lasting rapport.
No, they are designed solely to unlock the door. The term any conversation refers to that initial low-risk opening mechanism, not the 20 minutes of detailed discussion that might follow.
Okay, so they're low risk, high reward. What makes a phrase low risk in English?
A low-risk phrase minimizes the expected commitment from the listener. It guarantees a reciprocal opening without demanding a complex, high-effort response.
Okay, give me an example.
For instance, if you walk up to someone and ask, what are your deepest career aspirations in the current geopolitical climate? That is
extremely high risk and weird.
very high risk and inappropriate for small talk. But if you use one of our environmental phrases, the person can just say, oh, I think the architecture is interesting too. I like the light fixture. Minimal commitment, but the silence is broken.
That makes so much sense. These phrases are the bridge that helps non-native speakers manage the transition from just observing to actually participating.
For you as a learner, a massive chunk of your mental energy is spent just trying to identify the entry ramp onto the conversational highway.
The 25 phrases are 25 secure entry ramps.
And the design of those ramps has to prioritize generic safety. They have to avoid controversy, overly personal topics, specialized jargon, or complicated grammar.
Especially when you're dealing with different power dynamics.
Yes, which we'll get into. But generally, the phrases have to use simple, accessible language to maximize the chance of you delivering them without an error, and crucially, to maximize immediate comprehension by the native speaker you're talking to. A successful exchange right at the beginning. It breaks that freeze cycle permanently.
So the utility of any conversation lies in the structural simplicity of the phrases. They are simple machines designed for one job: initiating the transfer of the conversational ball without fumbling it.
Exactly. If you can reliably execute those first 5 seconds, you have successfully moved into the real-time practice zone where true fluency actually develops. The 25 phrases are just the delivery mechanism for the confidence you need to enter that zone.
So let's pivot now to the topic itself, small talk and meeting new people. If the title is the how-to, this is the why and the where. Small talk is so often, I don't know, dismissed as frivolous or meaningless, but in so many English-speaking cultures, it is an absolutely essential cultural skill.
It is.
So let's define this. What is small talk, fundamentally, in this context? And what should you, the learner, understand it is not?
Small talk is the social lubricant. It's the required preamble that has to happen before any substantial interaction. It's a cultural ritual of non-threat assessment.
Non-threat assessment. I like that.
You're using small talk to validate the other person's presence, to establish basic goodwill, and to lightly, very lightly, assess for any shared interests. It's a linguistic handshake.
And what is this not?
It is not a transfer of vital information. If you try to jump immediately to a deep philosophical or a detailed professional topic, you violate the social contract.
That analogy of the warm-up exercise is just spot on. If you skip the warm-up, you risk pulling a conversational hamstring. You come across as abrupt, maybe too intense, or even rude, depending on the setting. And for learners who come from cultures where directness is highly valued, this cultural shift is maybe even harder than the linguistic one.
It often is. Small talk is a display of social competence. It says, I understand the rules of engagement here. Right. We have to remember that humans we're hardwired to assess risk. When you meet a new person, your brain is asking, are they safe? Are they friendly? Do we share any common ground? Small talk provides surface-level answers to those questions.
It builds a necessary, momentary bridge of trust.
A bridge of trust before you invest the mental energy required for depth. And the 25 phrases are specifically designed to respect this cultural protocol. They are the socially approved, low-stakes questions and observations that fulfill that warm-up requirement.
They are essential for navigating what sociologists call the proximal zone of interaction.
Exactly. They keep the conversation light and external until both people mutually agree through continued interaction to move into more personal or detailed topics. For the non-native speaker, mastering these simple openings is proof that you understand the social game.
Which is often more important than proving you have flawless grammar.
Much more important.
Okay, so let's consider the stated goal. Meeting new people. This implies a constantly shifting, high variability environment. We need to analyze how these 25 phrases function across a whole spectrum, from a high-stakes meeting with a potential employer to a really low-stakes encounter at a student mixer.
The versatility of the phrases has to be based on their ability to adjust for power dynamics and situational formality. When you're meeting new people, you're usually trying to maximize a positive impression while minimizing risk.
Okay, let's take high-stakes situations first. Meeting a manager, a professor, a potential client.
The phrases you use here have to be a bit more formal, more professionally oriented. The environmental and compliment categories are still useful, but they have to avoid excessive familiarity.
Right, so you need to adjust them.
You adjust. Instead of saying, wow, this office is cool, you might use an environment phrase like, I find the layout of this space very conducive to collaboration. Was that intentional?
Ah, okay. That's a subtle but critical distinction. The core grammatical structure is still simple, but the vocabulary elevates the register.
Exactly. The complexity isn't in the syntax, it's in the semantic choice.
So the 25 phrases, if they're well designed, must teach you how to deploy the core structure using slightly different words depending on who you're talking to.
Precisely. Now, what about low-stakes situations? Meeting a peer, a friend of a friend at a party, a neighbor.
Here, the phrases can be lighter, right? Focusing more on shared experience or humor or just direct observation. The compliment and opinion categories would be great here.
Yeah, an opinion phrase like, are you sticking around for the whole night? I'm hoping they play some good music later, is perfectly acceptable.
It requires zero commitment.
Zero commitment, but it invites a relaxed, casual response.
This is where we have to address cultural nuance head on. The nature of small talk differs regionally. If you, our listener, are practicing in the UK, the small talk might center heavily on the weather, and often framed negatively.
Terrible rain today, isn't it?
Exactly. While in the US, small talk often leans toward relentless optimism. What big plans do you have for the weekend?
That's a crucial insight. The 25 phrases must be structurally neutral enough to accommodate these regional shifts. For instance, the environment observation phrases are safe everywhere, but the tone changes.
The phrase about the building's design can be deployed with either a pessimistic or an optimistic tone.
Depending on the cultural expectations, but the core structure is preserved. The 25 phrases give you the skeleton. The local culture provides the tone.
And for the non-native speaker, meeting new people in English is the most valuable form of practice they can get. These phrases aren't just conversation starters, they are facilitators of that necessary exposure. If you can reliably initiate contact, you force yourself out of the textbook and into the chaotic, messy, but ultimately enriching environment where you actually build genuine fluency.
They act as a behavioral change mechanism. They shift you from being a passive observer who is only listening and translating in their head to an active participant who is influencing the flow of communication.
That forced, immediate exposure has to accelerate learning far beyond what any formal lesson could ever provide.
No question.
So the focus on these defined, simple phrases directly benefits you, the learner, who's seeking quick, deployable knowledge. This approach really leverages structure to overcome the emotional hurdles of speaking a new language.
It's all about building confidence through micro successes. Confidence, not grammar mastery, is the true engine of long-term fluency.
That's a big statement.
But it's true. By providing 25 guaranteed launch mechanisms, the system ensures the learner experiences immediate positive feedback. I spoke, I was understood, and the conversation is now happening. That sequence dismantles the anxiety cycle.
I want to introduce a counterpoint here, though. Isn't there a risk that if you rely too heavily on 25 prepared phrases, you start to sound robotic? How do we stop the learner from sounding like they're reading a script, even if the script is perfect?
That's a valid concern, and it goes back to the difference between structural simplicity and memorized content. The 25 phrases are scaffolding, they're not the final building. They're designed to be launched spontaneously and automatically, just to break the silence. Once the silence is broken and the other person responds, you have 5 or 10 seconds to transition back into spontaneous, albeit maybe slower, speech.
So the robotic risk is minimized because the prepared phrase is only meant to cover the first 5 seconds.
That's it.
So the phrases are like the training wheels on a bike, and the goal is to just get the bike moving so you can lift your feet and start coasting on your own.
Precisely. The system is designed to overcome inertia. It guarantees the minimum necessary output to get the necessary reciprocal input. For the non-native speaker, the effort required for that initial launch is disproportionately high compared to the rest of the conversation. By providing the 25, we level the playing field for the start.
So what does this all mean then? It means this material isn't just a list of sentences. It's a profound, integrated psychological system for managing anxiety and building conversational momentum.
The value is emotional and behavioral.
And that translates directly into linguistic gain.
It has to.
Okay, so this brings us to the final imperative, the action, the momentum.
The overlay.
The overlay. Start talking. If the title is the strategic promise and the topic is the essential context, then this is the final essential piece of the puzzle. This overlay is a pure, unadulterated command.
It strips away that learned tendency to hesitate or overanalyze.
Absolutely. It is the ultimate lesson distilled into 2 active words. It's the antidote to paralysis by analysis.
Learners, particularly non-native speakers, so often fall into the trap of delaying speech while they search for the optimal word, the perfect conjugation, or the most eloquent structure. That delay, even if it's just 2 or 3 seconds, often results in the conversational window closing entirely.
That delay kills all momentum. It's the necessity of using language to learn language. You can read every swimming manual in the world, but until you jump in the water, you haven't learned a thing. The 25 phrases are the floating aid. The start talking overlay is that firm push off the pool wall.
And importantly, this is where avoiding filler words becomes a conscious choice that's reinforced by the training. The command, start talking, pushes you past the moment where you would normally pause or stutter or insert a placeholder word.
Because the first sentence is preloaded.
The action of speaking is immediate and clean.
The directness of the phrase is just so essential. It tells your brain, abandon perfection, prioritize sound. The goal of those first two words is communicative function, not linguistic art.
It transforms the perception of conversation from an essay that has to be perfect to a simple reciprocal game of catch. The phrase is the ball, and your only goal is to throw it immediately.
We have to look at why this command is terrifying without the 25 phrases, but it's liberating with them.
Right. If you just tell someone who is already anxious to start talking without giving them a tool, what happens?
They're going to freeze even harder. The command becomes a source of pressure, not liberation. But the command relies entirely on the successful infrastructure of those 25 phrases.
Absolutely. The preparation of the 25 phrases is designed specifically to make obedience to that command possible. They are automatic inputs designed to generate an automatic output, the other person's response.
The 25 phrases reduce the cost of the action demanded by start talking.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Let's visualize this with a quick scenario. We have a listener, let's call her Maria. She's a highly intelligent English learner at a professional conference. She understands the concepts discussed on stage perfectly,
Okay.
but then she sees a chance to network with an industry leader during the coffee break. Her cognitive load immediately spikes.
What should I say? Is my accent okay? Is this person too important? She starts to freeze.
Right. But now let's apply the system. Maria is trained on her 25 phrases. She immediately defaults to a safe environmental observation phrase.
She doesn't need to construct a novel thought.
None. She walks up and says cleanly, without any filler words, I was just thinking that this coffee is a great addition to the break. Are you here for the full day?
The action is immediate. She obeyed the start talking command. The phrase is structurally simple, it's low risk, and it requires a simple, friendly response from the industry leader.
Who might say, yes, thank goodness for the coffee. I'm here until the closing keynote.
And Maria has now successfully executed the launch sequence. The conversation has momentum. She successfully threw the ball, and it was caught.
And now she has those crucial few seconds to formulate her second sentence, maybe a question based on the keynote, without the paralyzing pressure of the opening.
This movement prevents the freeze from ever taking hold. The 25 phrases provide the necessary momentum to sustain the interaction past those tricky first 5 seconds.
The lesson for you, the learner, is crystal clear. The goal of the initial phrase is merely to break the silence and engage the listener. Success is measured by the other person's response, not by the internal linguistic critique you give yourself. Start talking shifts the measure of success from internal perfection to external communicative effectiveness.
We have to acknowledge that even the smallest action generates momentum. If you can master those 25 simple opening phrases, you are ensuring that you are moving your mouth, your mind, and your body toward engagement rather than freezing in place. That is the true strategic value.
So we've taken what looked like a simple marketing description and we've analyzed it as a complete, multi-layered strategy for language learners. Let's just bring these 4 elements together to fully synthesize the core message for you.
Okay, so first we analyzed the cure for the freeze. Never freeze again.
Yeah.
This is the emotional promise, the anxiety reduction mechanism designed to tackle that cognitive overload and performance fear.
Second, we examined the manageable toolkit, the 25 phrases. This is the specific, curated, and high-impact structural solution. It uses the paradox of choice to its advantage, providing just enough versatility for mastery while ensuring structural simplicity to minimize the use of filler words.
Third, we discussed the essential context, small talk and meeting new people. This defines the cultural and situational environment, emphasizing that small talk is a necessary social ritual that you have to master through culturally safe, low-risk openings.
And finally, we detailed the crucial last step, the imperative to start talking. This is the command that converts passive knowledge into active, real-world linguistic engagement, and it relies on the 25 phrases to provide the necessary momentum to overcome inertia and perfectionism.
So it's a complete integrated system for conversational launch.
Designed specifically for the anxious learner.
The system, therefore, provides a roadmap from anxiety, the freeze, to preparation, the 25, to contextual understanding, small talk, to successful behavior, start talking. It addresses every single phase of the conversational struggle for non-native English speakers.
So we've seen how a well-designed set of knowledge, even when it's only implied by a title, a topic, and an overlay, focuses entirely on immediate utility and and profound confidence building for the non-native English speaker. This isn't just some random list. It's a focused psychological intervention designed to convert your passive listening skills into active speaking success.
And that is the most essential takeaway here. True learning, particularly in a high-stress domain like real-time language acquisition, thrives on bounded, manageable steps.
Right.
The promise of 25 is the perfect balance between thorough preparation and immediate, non-overwhelming application. It is a calculated reduction of choice designed to exponentially increase performance and minimize your reliance on distracting filler words.
Building on this source material's implied focus on fluency and simplicity, let me leave you with a final provocative thought. Consider how many opportunities for professional connection, for cultural integration, or just for plain human rapport are lost simply because of the hesitation on the very first word. If mastering those first 5 seconds unlocks 5 minutes of productive, real-time interaction, and you repeat that success 25 times over the course of a month, what is the true compounding hidden value of that initial investment in those 25 phrases? That is something for you to mull or explore on your own.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the strategy of conversational initiation.
We'll catch you next time.